Hello students. Today we are going to study something about the biomolecules. So let me share my PPT. Okay. So I know you know your course title, that is Bioorganic Chemistry. In this we are going to study the first chapter of Unit 1, in which we are going to learn something about the carbohydrates, the classification of carbohydrates and the biological functions of carbohydrates. So what are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are organic compounds which contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So in the image you can clearly see the sources of carbohydrates. You can see many fruits, grains which contain carbohydrates. Okay. So all these are the sources of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are very important sources of energy. These are also some of the images of the foodstuff which contain carbohydrates. Now we'll see the classification of carbohydrates. They are basically classified into three types. The first one is monosaccharides. The simplest form of carbohydrates is called as monosaccharides. They contain the basic units of carbohydrates and their general formula is CnH2O by N. They are also called as polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones. And these monosaccharides cannot be further hydrolyzed to simple sugars. Monosaccharides can also be further classified into aldoses and ketoses. Aldoses are the compounds which contain the aldehyde group, and ketoses are the monosaccharides which contain the ketonic group. Example of aldoses is glyceraldehyde. You can see the structure of diglyceraldehyde here, which contains 3 carbon atom and also an aldehyde group, CH double bond O group present in glyceraldehyde. Ketoses are the monosaccharides which contain the ketonic group, that is C double bond O group. Example of ketoses is dihydroxyacetone. The structure of dihydroxyacetone is shown here. You can see on the second carbon atom, the ketonic group, that is C double bond O group, is present. So this is the simplest classification of monosaccharides. Now, based on the presence of number of carbon atoms, we can classify the monosaccharides as dioses, trioses, tetroses, pentoses, and hexoses. As the name itself tells, dioses contain 2 carbon atoms, trioses contain 3 carbon atoms, tetros contain 4 carbon atoms, and pentose contains 5 carbon atoms, hexose contains 6 carbon atoms. And the examples of diose is glycoaldehyde, triose is glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone, whose structures just now we have seen. Tetrose is erythrose and erythrulose. Pentose is ribose and ribulose. And the hexose type of monosaccharides are glucose and fructose. Now, what are the important functions of the carbohydrates in the biological system? They play 6 important roles. First one is they act as a source of energy. They act as fuel in our body. The best example of the monosaccharide which acts as the instant source of energy is glucose. They also act as storage of energy. Like example, starch. In the case of plants, starch acts as the storehouse of energy. In the case of animals, the energy is stored in the form of glycogen. They also help in forming the structure of the living organisms, or in other words, we can say that they form the structural tissues in plants. Example is the cellulose type of carbohydrate, which plays an important role in forming the structure of the plants. In case of bacteria, the cell wall is made up of carbohydrates. And in case of animals, the carbohydrates called proteoglycans play an important role in forming the cartilage, teeth, etc. The carbohydrates are also found in plasma membrane and play an important role in cell recognition. Glucose, which is an important monosaccharide, which is nothing but a carbohydrate, it can be converted into fats and also proteins. The ribose sugar is important in the formation of nucleic acids. We know there are 2 nucleic acids in our body, that is RNA, ribonucleic acid, and DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acid. So ribose sugar is present in RNA, and also deoxyribose sugar is present in DNA. That's how these carbohydrates play an important role in the biological functions of the carbohydrates. So thank you, students. We'll see the next part in the next class.